I had to make sure I wasn't dreaming when he said what he said. So, but I'm
here, of course, joined with Nick Bodkins of the Bodkins Show. Nick. Welcome on in, everybody, to the Buffoon and Bodkins Show. My name is Tanner Dawson. In case you're not sick of seeing me, I've been on live every single night, sometimes multiple shows. Sticking around, guys. I'm still here, and I'm still going to be doing stuff. And welcoming in as well Nick Bodkins of the Bodkins Show, fresh off probably the worst vacation he's ever had. So, welcome in, Nick. Welcome in.
Amen to that. Worst on the mend from COVID, out of the COVID camper, into the COVID layer at home, but on the mend and feeling a lot better than I did Saturday and yesterday. Sunday morning, the boys tried to do head kicks and haymakers. If you missed that, I was in there for like 5 minutes, and I was just like, boys, have a good show. Kenny and Craig held down the fort for me, and they had to do their own first time hosting, so without me. So, but still did a great job. But on the mend, sound a lot better, feel a lot better, and ready to rock with you, my brother, on this Monday night.
Yeah, man, they did a good job. I watched part of it. I caught some of it, so they did a pretty good job, I'd say. Props to them. Well, guys, we got quite the lineup today. Once again, we have Ryan Larrison joining us, possibly this last time for a little bit, talking some fantasy football. We're going to go over his updated rankings as of 8/11. I got some questions for him. Okay, so got some stuff there. We're also going to view out. We'll talk a little bit best ball strategy as well, because that's always fun. I've been doing that the last few days. So if you guys haven't tuned into my mock drafts, I'm there every night. I'll be on tonight after the show, probably about 10:30. We'll do tonight's auction draft prep. So we're going to do a little bit of that. I've never done an auction draft, so it's new for me.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of those. Tanner, you've been killing it. Those. I watch them later, and I've been watching you on the old TikTok too. So,
yeah, I got that going again, baby. TikTok, yeah. In case you guys aren't following us, Sports Buffoons, I am. I got my return video on there, and some content is dropping. And let's just say, it's gonna get crazy from here on out. I'm super excited. I love this kind of stuff. So football season's easier to do TikTok for me than it is throughout the rest of the year. So it's a fun time for me. So, well, guys, without further ado, we get the show underway. Let's bring in Ryan Larrison of Fantasy Football for the People, Wag Me Fantasy, and Rotoballer as well. And of course, Let's Talk Sports. Ryan, welcome in, dude.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love how you have to take a big, deep breath to get.
I got to get all of it in.
All of that in. It makes me seem more important than I probably am at this point.
So many, Brian. Ryan, you got so many people. See, COVID, Brian. I about called you Brian already. Ryan. Many organizations. Everybody's after you and your details. So we're gonna obviously talk about that tonight. I'm excited to see these new updated rankings. I haven't got to catch them all here.
Yeah, actually, let's put them more on the spot here, and we're gonna bring them up.
Very nice. Okay, I like this a lot. That's a good little website right there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So this is on fantasyfootballforthepeople.com. You guys seen this if you watch some of my mocks. I've had it posted. This is Ryan's site he uses. So the rankings are updated as of 8/11. Nothing too crazy in the quarterback scheme rankings I saw for I guess updates. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, tier 3 by themselves. Yeah, I saw you had Russell Wilson up there. That was one question. Where did this Russell Wilson thing come into play? Where is he tier 2?
Have you ever watched him play football before?
It's pretty decent.
I mean, I love the move to Denver, and it's not just because he's going to a place where he's got weapons. He's had weapons his entire career. We know how good he can be. This isn't the Pete Carroll, I'm high T, I'm going to run it 45 times offense. This is Nathaniel Hackett. He's given the keys over to Russell Wilson to actually be able to air it out. And I mean, I'm assuming he's going to, if I did the math correctly, he's going to get probably about average 35 to 37 passes a game. And that's exactly what you want from a quarterback who, even though he's getting a little bit up there in age, he's still got a good rushing baseline. He's got plenty of touchdown upside. I mean, everything is working. If he finishes inside the top 5, is anybody really going to be surprised?
Not really. It's like Aaron
I
Rodgers. Same
wouldn't
thing.
be surprised, but are you worried at all? The narrative of like let Russ cook. I guess that's what you're campaigning. You're going with here in Denver, but they try to do that in Seattle, and it wasn't so much last year, but the year before they definitely did. It was like the first 8 games he was just absolutely stud. I mean, he was even an MVP candidate 2 years ago, and then it just whatever the train ran off the tracks. Like, are you worried about that could happen at Denver, or could it be vice versa where he starts off slow and then ends the season hot and maybe the guy that you want leading you into the playoffs?
What's really funny about that is if you look at and take last year out of it, right? Because that was the first year he ever got hurt, missed time. And when he came back from the injury, he just didn't look like himself for a good 3-4 weeks. For fantasy purposes, Russell Wilson had a stigma of he bounces back and forth. He may start the season hot for 8 weeks and then just absolutely obliterate you down the stretch, or vice versa. And of course, that is a worry here. I have faded Wilson for years. If you go back and look at some of my stuff over the last 3 years, Wilson's pretty much on every single one of my fade lists. Like, I don't want to deal with the volatility. I think moving into this offense with a better offensive line than he's had in Seattle, better play caller, more suited towards today's NFL, you're going to get peak fantasy Russell Wilson more often than you're going to get the fantasy Russell Wilson that, makes you question why you even thought about drafting him in the first place. I think he's just going to be more consistent. That's going to lead to better fantasy production. And I think that he's upped his weekly scoring ceiling just a touch, just because of the offense that he's in now, change of scenery, all that fun stuff. So I think it's going to work out good. He's great value too. He's going, I think, is like the 10th quarterback off the board in like the 7th round. And with all top 12 quarterbacks coming off the board on average before the 9th round, I don't think you can get a better pick when you're trying to get somebody that's inside that top 12 on average.
That's fair. And that's an ADP of 78 for Russell Wilson right now on Fantasy Pros. So that's if he's gonna be tier 2 and you can get him, I think it's going 7th, 8th round ish. I mean, if you can get him in your tier 1 there, I'd say that's a steal. So let's move on to the big question of the day that I brought up on the show a couple of days ago when Ryan was on. Casey Rockaholic, Mike, thanks for tuning in, dude. All right, I got to change this to full PPR, guys.
Full PPR, yep.
Christian McCaffrey, number 1, over Jonathan Taylor.
Ryan, I thought we was on the fade CMC train here. I guess not anymore, huh?
What's up?
Going back through my projections and making sure that I had everything corrected in terms of target share, because that's how I try to do it. I start with target share percentage, then I'll fill out the rest of the stat line of how many yards I think they're going to average per reception, how many receptions they're going to get, their catch percentage, all that fun stuff. And I'm talking about within 5 points of each other. McCaffrey just edged out Taylor. And it's just because Taylor has to contend with another back in his own system that's also going to catch the ball, Nyheim Hines. Even if Taylor gets 50-55 targets, that's fantastic. Christian McCaffrey's ceiling is 90 targets. I'm not projecting him for 90 targets. I'm saying he could easily get there as long as he stays healthy.
The counter argument to that, and he is fighting somebody in his backfield. It's called the injury bug. And 2, you're talking 90 targets. We haven't seen him in this Matt Rule offense at all. Like full healthy season at least. I mean, we've seen bits and pieces. Last year, I think how many games he played last year? Like 4 games or something like that.
I think he got up to 7.
No, he got 7. So Wagme Fantasy was talking about this. I was listening to one of their episodes on podcast. Great podcast to listen to in the morning, guys, by the way. And they were talking about McCaffrey. And, he ended up playing 7 games. And then they were doing an over-under as well. Do you think over and under he plays 15 games? If you can get 15 games out of him, I think he's definitely a number 1, at least. But if you're anything really under 12 it's tough. It's tough to justify, I think, for McCaffrey. Real quick here, Tyrone Brown, also a Philadelphia sports fan.
Love
New
Tyrone.
to the Let's Talk Sports. Tyrone, man, he's killing it right now on Let's Talk Sports stuff. He's a lot of good info going on to play. Great show. Go check him out, guys. He's a lot of good info. CMC or Taylor, please explain. CMC over Taylor and why. So let's say you're number 1, right? Ryan, you're sitting in the driver's spot, number 1 overall pick. Who are you really going for? In your heart, are you really going CMC?
if it's full PPR, I will
Yep.
smash Christian McCaffrey as the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
If
Okay.
it's half PPR, I will absolutely go Jonathan Taylor.
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor shakes out, I think it's 15 points over Christian McCaffrey, number 2 in my projections, and half PPR. That's how big the PPR bump really puts McCaffrey up, because his baseline, and you got to remember, unless they have a suspension or an injury that is 100% concrete going to cost them time, I don't factor that into projections. I factor this into, this is their 17-game pace, and that's for everybody. It's not just for McCaffrey. It's for everybody. So this is how I see it shaking out if they get to that 17 games. Now, listen, I don't think there was a back last year that finished inside the top 12 that played 17 games. Most of them played 16 to 15, missed a couple, potentially 13 to 14. But McCaffrey, the only time he busted last season was when he got hurt in a game. That's the only time he finished below 7 points, and that was in half PPR. In full PPR, he still went over that. So he definitely didn't bust for fantasy, if you want to go with that metric.
In
which most people
terms,
do.
I guess, yeah.
Yep. So I think it's got a good chance to happen. I'm not too worried about the injuries. These are injuries that don't have a high rate of re-risking them coming back. Guys, there are players in the NFL. Don't you remember Keenan Allen was labeled as a fantasy bust a couple of years ago because he missed 2 seasons, and now he's back.
Injuries. Yeah. Okay.
I'll say this though to that. I mean, that's 2 different positions: running back and receiver. I mean, it seems like especially running backs, once those injuries start piling up, they pile up, and they're never the same. I mean, that's just history. I'm not saying that McCaffrey can't be that comeback guy that we think he can be. There's just too many question marks for me to put as the number 1 guy. I'm on the fade CMC train. I've been on that train. We talked about it several times on different podcasts and shows, probably even on this show. I continue to say I'm a fade him just for the simple fact because I haven't seen him in this Matt Rule offense. I don't like Carolina as a team necessarily. Like I like the Colts better as a team. I like their coaching staff better. I like their offensive line better. I like their quarterback better. I like everything about the Colts more than I like about the Panthers and what CMC has proven. We're talking CMC. The last time he was great was 3 years ago in a different offense, on a whole different team. So, I mean, the only thing you are right about is the receptions is a huge factor for CMC. Taylor's not going to get as many. I do expect he'll get more touches as far as running wise, just because I think they'll be that's just what their Colts are going to do. It's going to run the ball. Let's, play action and things like that, where the Panthers, I expect them to be down a lot and they might have to dunk it down. And there's not another running back on that roster where at least the Colts have. Naheem Hines you probably have to worry about mixed with a couple others. So I don't know if I'm just the number 1 sitting there number 1. I just feel like that's the Jonathan Taylor's. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor could go out in next week and tear out his ACL. Knock on wood here,
because you never know. Yeah.
You just never know when those.
It's 100%.
You just never know.
Look at Barkley's injury last year. Freak injury. That's not going to happen again. That's a basketball injury. He got his ankle stepped on, and it ballooned up to the size of a watermelon, and there's nothing you can do.
Why are him and let's look at Zeke Elliott. Like last year and this year, last year they were Saquon was number 3 or 4. And this year they're both ranked. You looking in your rankings here, you don't have either one of them in your top 10.
No, I do not. That's full PPR too.
Why is Saquon and Zeke so far faded? And they're coming back off of injuries, but you're keeping CMC there.
Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard's a big part.
Yeah. I can see Tony Pollard with Zeke, especially, and Mike McCarthy. Those are huge problems.
They are big problems. And let's be realistic, guys. When you only have to guard CeeDee Lamb for probably the first 6 weeks of the season, what are you going to do when you play Dallas? You're going to stack the box. And every single year, Zeke's yards per carry has come down for the past 4 years to the point to where he was just barely touching over 4 yards per carry in most of his games last year. And that's not going to get it done. Now, here's the problem with this. Last year was a bad year for Zeke, right? I think he was still the RB6 in half PPR. It's my low ranking of Zeke doesn't fully have to do with me thinking that he is a bad fantasy player. I think his value in terms of drafting value is pretty good. This is about me liking the potential upside of a lot of these other backs that have more receiving work built into their baseline. And just, it's also kind of Zeke fatigue too. You know, we don't want to be holding that bag. And I think this is probably the year where it's going to start to go downward in terms of his full on production. And I don't see Dallas scoring as much as they did last season without Cooper, without a true wide receiver 2 to start the season. Jalen Tolbert's, I think he's going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL. It's going to take time for him to develop, and defenses aren't going to take him very seriously. They're going to put all of their chips onto guarding CeeDee Lamb and stacking the box against Zeke. And that means it's going to be the Dalton Schultz and Tony Pollard show when they decide to fan out Tony Pollard into the slot, which they've already been doing in practice. It's a consistent thing. It's not, oh, they just tried it one time. They've done it almost every single practice from reading beat reports and stuff like that. So it's interesting. In terms of Saquon just looks good now. He looks like he's healthy. He's finally healthy. He's another player where I'm not going to just bake in, oh, I think they're going to get injured into their rank, because you can't do that. That can happen to every single player in the NFL. It doesn't matter what position they play. Any of them can tear an ACL. And look at Zach Wilson the other night. Runs 8 yards, doesn't get touched, barely looks like he's shifted, and there's fear that he tore his ACL. I mean, in a preseason game, that's all it takes is one play, one small rush. He decided to make he made a decision to run the ball. He may be out for the season. I don't think he is, but that's just a hypothetical and I guess something to kind of prove my point a little bit. Not super worried about the injury risk with Barkley. I think he's 100% healthy, probably the healthiest he's been in 2 years. And he's gotten close to my top 12. I think he might even be a couple spot or two higher in my half PPR rankings. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'll show you.
Yeah, please do. This is tough to remember.
Saquon's 14 in half PPR tier.
Does he drop a little bit in full?
So in full, he's 14. So you get him right on to the dot. 14 and 14.
Right on the nose. That's good. Fantasy Pros is interesting. So I can only do my half PPR, and then they adjust my PPR rank. So I got to go in there and try and manually change things. It's pain in the butt. But I think I got it exactly where it was when I did my full projections. I think the only problem with Barkley is his ADP has risen to the point to where sometimes you have to go get him in the back of the first round, and I'm not comfortable making that decision. If he's my RB2 or I'm pairing him with a first-round talent that I know I have a lot of faith in, I'm not too worried about it. But I remember being able to grab him in the back of the second round of best ball drafts just a month ago, and now you can't touch him in that range anymore. His ADP is just skyrocketed because he's looked good in camp, and probably rightfully so. There's a good chance he's got as good a chance as any of those guys that are listed in between 13 and 24 to finish inside that top 12.
Yeah, and Tyrone, we'll get to your questions in just a second here, so stay tuned, man. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just because everybody's fading him, but nobody's fading CMC. That was just kind of my thing, and then I just think, now Saquon might be in his best position he's been in since he's been a pro. A better coach. I like Dayball coming over from Buffalo. I mean, they got the weapons. This is probably one of his best offensive line he's had. It's still a rebuilding offensive line, but one of the best offensive lines. The only thing they don't have is a quarterback. And if they went and got Jimmy G, you could easily make a case for that team to be a playoff team and win that division. And we'll see what happens there. I would almost take Tyrod Taylor over Danny Dimes in that situation, but
we all want that.
That's real football.
Even Giants fans.
I want that too.
Yeah.
I want that too. Listen, that is part of the reason that he's there. I have to factor in completion percentage and amount of times that he's going to get targeted. And Daniel Jones doesn't check down to the running back as much as you would like. I mean, when he broke out for fantasy, it was Eli Manning, because Eli was kind of in that Roethlisberger effect where his arm was starting to decline, his arm strength was, and checkdowns were the name of the game. And that's why Saquon got fed so much in that rookie season. So
if they went to Tyrod, let's just say before week 1, they're like, hey, we're going to go with Tyrod Taylor, or they make a move for Jimmy G, would that move Saquon up your board?
I'd definitely adjust my numbers a little bit and bump him up. I don't know how high it would bump him up. He would be even closer to the top 12. What do I got there at 13? Fournette. He might eclipse Fournette. There's a bit of a gap there in terms of total points scored in terms of the projection that I have, but I think it would probably bump him up there, maybe even above Montgomery at 12 and get him inside that top 12. So I'd feel a lot more comfortable drafting him at that 1-2 turn than I would where he is right now with Daniel Jones as QB.
Gotcha. And Tyrone here says, I'm number one this year thinking about Taylor, but should I really trust CMC? If you're in full PPR, man, Ryan just gave it to you. You need to trust CMC. You need to just hope the process. You remember too. This
No
is the
risk it, no
first,
biscuit, man.
Amen. You don't win without.
Hey,
making
that's
moves.
when you take. Hey, that's that's when you take N'Keal Harry, baby.
That's
Not
right.
in the first round.
In the first round.
That's too much risk.
So
Shoot.
so CMC came in 2017, had the best Cam Newton around. 18, he had Cam Newton, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, and then the fall off of Cam Newton essentially happened in 19. But Kyle Allen starting 12 games, Will Greer starting 2, and Cam Newton starting 2. And last year was Teddy Bridgewater and PJ Walker.
No,
I would
that was
still
2019. That was 2020. Or last year was Sam Darnold.
Oh, sorry,
Cam Newton,
2020.
PJ
Last
Walker.
year,
Yeah.
the ghost we're seeing. I don't know what's happening over there. Sorry,
Sam
2020
Darnold
was
and
Teddy Brett PJ, but still,
Cam Newton and everybody.
I would take Baker Mayfield over everybody except maybe 2018, 2017 Cam Newton. Right?
I might even do
this
it
is
then.
the first
Yeah,
quarterback of him since those 2 years of actually having some kind of consistency, but also a guy that's able to pass down the field. And that's going to open up CMC, not just in the passing game, but also the run game. So I think
And-
just having that quarterback in place is going to be huge.
Yep.
Baker's
And-
going to have a little chip on his shoulder too, I think, and he's going to he has a lot to prove. I think to maybe Carolina, to people, he's going to have that little chip on his shoulder about how Cleveland should have never traded him for and took Deshaun Watson. So
Right.
I think that'll help him. You're on the money right there, Tanner, talking about this is the best quarterback he's had, but I mean, he just got to stay healthy, and that's the thing is, I mean, and that's with everybody. I mean, whoever you draft, especially in the first round, first 2 rounds, those are the guys that you just pray that they stay healthy and that you draft, well deep. You draft deep, but I mean, your first round pick goes out. That's just like you're starting quarterback in the NFL, man. If they go out, you're going to be scrambling for a little bit, trying to hope and pray you drafted depth.
Yeah, and also to further the point with Baker, look at the offense that he's been in his entire career. It is run first, check down, throw to the running back. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Chubb's not the greatest pass catcher, and he made that work. And Kareem Hunt, I mean, peak Kareem Hunt probably rivaled peak Kareem or peak CMC in terms of pass catching ability. So he knows how to work with a pass catching running back, someone that excels in that part of the game. I think it's a match made in heaven, man. This is I think I understand all the skepticism and fear when it comes to CMC. Unfortunately, if you want the chance at him, you got to throw it aside. Take it from a guy who's had him in most of his big money leagues the past 2 seasons. Okay.
Same here.
If I am still willing to
Can't
take
say
him
why.
first overall, one more ride, man. Just give it one more
You're like
ride.
that. Hey, you're like that. You guys are like the boy that just keeps running back to the bad girlfriend who's cheated on him too many times. She won't cheat on me this time. This time's the time. I'm gonna ride this one out.
But
But if it works, you found your love for life, Nick.
my other 2 years have been AJ Brown, and he's been having this worst injury seasons the last 2 years. So I can't buy anything there. Tyrone's also asking, so it's in the snake draft. So after the first pick, so obviously, how many guys are in your draft, Tyrone? We gotta know that first. How many guys are in your draft? Is it 10 or 12? So, but who would he look essentially to come back around in that late second round for him? If he's in a 10-man, I mean, are you looking probably in a receiver going into play? So let's say he picks CMC at 1. Who are we looking after for him to view?
For me, you definitely if you're taking the risk with CMC, which I will, we'll all admit there's risk. You got to double up with at least one more running back. You could even go 2 if you're comfortable with the wide receivers that go rounds 4 through 7, which I usually am. But just to be risk averse, usually there's guys like Deebo Samuel in that range. Tyreek Hill has gone that late in drafts that I've been in, 10-team and 12-team leagues. Pairing one of those guys with CMC plus another running back, you guys already know my answer to this, because the best one in my eyes that's available on that 2-3 turn is James Conner. but that's a lot of risk to put onto a team
That's a
that has
double
already
down.
CMC.
Double
That's
down.
double
Yeah,
down
you're
risk
doubling
right there.
two injury-prone guys. As your 2 and 3 pick. I mean, if you're hopeful, maybe somebody like Aaron Jones may still be around, right around there.
12 man.
12 team.
man.
Okay.
Usually Aaron Jones is going at that first turn, not the second, instead of the rounds 2 and 3. So
I mean, another guy that will be there too is usually DeAndre Swift. I've been seeing, and then also guys like CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams have also been swinging to that. I've seen that spot as well. Not very often, but it happens. And then Mike
rare.
Evans has also eventually gone down that way on some drafts as well. So it's weird. It's weird seeing some of these guys that normally, the first 15, 16 picks have dropped all the way down to 24. So
starting at right now on 4 for 4 at 211. We'll use 211 because that could easily fall one more pick. You got your choice of Javonte, Leonard Fournette, James Conner, or Zeke. Those are probably the best 4 left in terms of ADP. Who are you going with there?
I'll probably go James Conner.
So you said James Conner, Zeke.
James Conner, Javonte, Zeke, Leonard Fournette.
I'm probably taking Lenny actually over, just because right now it doesn't seem like there's another back in that field. He used to have to compete with Rojo.
Injury risk with Lenny too. He's been injured his whole career except for probably last year.
Well, he's beefed up, baby. He's beefed up now.
I don't know how well I take that. I mean, you come in training camp not too fit, it might be a little issue.
Hey, he's beefed up. He's beefed up. That's beef, baby. That's beef.
Here. We got
That Lenny's going to be the best Lenny.
Oh, hey Siri. I know. I don't know what that means either, Siri. We got a Facebook user. I have to go check here which one, but can't take those chances on 3 times. The O-line will damper those streams. I'm assuming he's talking about Carolina. Look, Carolina's offensive line has improved a lot. If you go visit our, actually, we haven't even done that preview yet. Never mind. We talked to a Carolina fan, Buffoon and Bodkins, about a month ago, and he really likes where we're at. Now, the tight ends aren't nothing to brag about, but those are blocking tight ends for you. They're not meant to catch passes. Plus, Baker Mayfield ain't passing the tight end anyway. Or else David Njoku would have blew up even further. He would have got more money. So
and Austin Hooper. Remember they signed Austin Hooper a couple years ago to a big deal.
Baker ain't.
He just
you don't need one of those big tight end names.
My big thing is, when has Christian McCaffrey been a part of a good offense at any point of his career? I mean, it's
Fournette coming in overweight.
Well, yes. They. I haven't seen any reports about Connor coming in overweight.
I haven't seen.
However, I want the guy who had the second most red zone carries to Jonathan Taylor as my number 2 running back. I mean, and that's not going to change this year. Who's gonna take the red zone carries from him? Eno Benjamin, Darrell Williams. Not worried about that whatsoever. I've made the James Conner argument so much that, I mean, I should probably get his face tattooed on my right butt cheek. I mean, get some
making your background from now on.
Yeah, I mean, just hearts all over the place. Just wait until the newsletter hits tomorrow. So this is the perfect time to talk about this because I've got my favorites and fades coming out. I do this every year. You know how Matthew Berry does his love-hate list. I try to do it with a bit of a twist where it's not just guys I like. It's guys I like a lot more than what Fantasy Pros is ECR has, which I think that's all the way on the right of the screen there. You see the plus and minuses. That's how much I like them, more or less than what the expert consensus ranks are. And I take some of the biggest guys that have the biggest discrepancies of that, and then I write the column on them and formulate my favorites that I like to try and target, and the guys I like to fade the most, depending on how far down I am compared to the earned consensus ranks. So Connor is 100% in that list. He's the front cover, the whole thing. So that's the plant my flag guy this year. If it wasn't, I mean, I'd sound like I wasn't being serious about it. So I gotta do that.
By the way, I believe this is Connor on Facebook, our NASCAR guy for Let's Talk Sports. So welcome.
What's going on, Connor? Perfect name for this.
I know, right? Connor. But yeah, it'll be kind of crazy. But yeah, it's nuts. All right, I got one more question before we get to some Jets talk with Jude Jets, and I'll let you go here. I was looking at this yesterday, and I was really confused here. Drake London, big, high, mighty, like lots of praise, a lot of hype going into play. What about a guy like Brian Edwards, who is listed as number 1 on the Falcons offense, wide receivers? Why isn't he anywhere remotely in the top 15?
I mean,
or top 15 rounds, essentially is what I meant.
I get what you're saying. When it comes to once you get to that point, once you get to the point towards the end of your drafts and you're looking at the guys that are either going undrafted or that 15th round, I think at that point you're making a case for anybody. So if you want to take somebody that's undrafted, there's no reason not to. And Edwards has a shot. The big thing about it is I mean, look at Drake London right now. He's probably going to start the season. There's no real risk or concern that he's not going to, but he's already banged up.
Yeah.
And all they have behind him is Brian Edwards. Here's the problem. Edwards has been hyped up as a post-type sleeper for 2 seasons now, and he's in a worse offense than he was before, with Marcus Mariota as the potential one getting potentially double covered if all they've got to do is find a way to keep Pitts in check. So he's a tough sell for a lot of people, but when it comes to that 15th round draft price, you take the shots on these guys that you're going to know about week 1. If he goes out there and he gets 10 targets, yeah, you can keep him. But if he doesn't, he costed you a 15th round pick. You can drop him for whoever the hot waiver wire name is. That's the way you got to look at some of these guys when you're trying to formulate who to take in that 15th round. Swing for the upside. Brian Edwards sure as heck has it, because if he finds a way to be the number 1 receiver on the offense, yes, thank you, man. I appreciate it. If he finds a way to be that number 1 on the offense, I highly doubt he will, but there's always a chance. Then yeah, of course, he's going to return that 15th round value with, cute and pay off in big ways. But that's kind of how you got to think about those 14th, 15th round picks. That's why I never go safe with those. I don't take the Jamison Crowders or anything like that where, yeah, they'll be safe, but the upside's not there. You got to swing for the fences, because those are the guys that could find a way to potentially win you leagues.
That's fair. Yeah, I was looking at this wide receivers for the Falcons the other day, and outside of London and Zacchaeus, maybe Geronimo Allison, there ain't nobody there. Ain't nobody there.
Yeah, staying on that team, though, why is Cordell Patterson, why is he ranked so low, Ryan? I mean, he was kind of a big sleeper last year and was well, I don't know. That guy's smoking some crack.
Carlos, man.
I do.
Carlos will be on Wednesday with us, by the way, for some Titans talk. So.
No.
I can't get behind that one, man.
Falcons are not going to make noise. But anyway, before I was taken back by that question and that statement, why is Cordell Patterson, why is he ranked so low? Because it seemed like last year he had some huge games and was just probably one of the biggest sleepers of the year, that kind of came out of nowhere. If you took a flyer on him, he probably wasn't even undrafted at most, at most spots last year. And it seems like this year people are still not high on him. Why is that after the year he had last year? Because, he's a wide receiver, running back mix, and they plug and play him everywhere.
That's very true. I'm going to give you 3 reasons. So first one is Tyler Algier, rookie running back for the Atlanta Falcons, getting tons and tons of hype out of camp. And I know you're not supposed to read too much into camp reports, but we even saw it during the preseason game. They understand that Cordell Patterson is not a typical running back. They're going to have somebody else lead the team in carries. Mike Davis almost did that last season. So it's going to be Tyler Algier's job in terms of leading the team in carries. After that, last season, down the stretch, last 8 games of the season, you saw Cordell Patterson's production dip big time for fantasy. Huge. He dropped off to the point to where I remember it because my brother had him. He was doing nothing but, taking victory laps the entire first half of the season. And then he was doing everything he could just to trade Cordell Patterson because of how bad he was. But you had to start him every week because he was giving you top 15 RB production. You didn't want to miss out on that. The Falcons recognize this. They understand that at his advanced age for the running back position, and also he's a hybrid, he's not a true running back, they've got to decrease his touches to make sure that they get the most out of him for a longer stretch of time. You're going to see his workload scaled back. He's not going to get the carry count that he did during the start of the season last year. It was an anomaly. It was fantastic. I'm so happy it happened because the dude is underrated in the NFL in terms of who he is as a player. But it's not going to continue. And that doesn't mean he's not going to be valuable for fantasy. I think he's a good flex option. He's still going to get tons of targets in that offense. And to start the season, he's most likely going to be a good flex and have some RB2 weeks. But the same amount of production isn't going to happen. That's why I like taking Tyler Algier late. You can get him in 12th, 13th round. The latest I've got him is my last pick. And he could end up with 200 carries by the end of the year, even if it isn't a bad offense. Volume always wins out for fantasy purposes. So I think he's a guy that you should target as well. With that said, I do not hate Patterson's draft price. I think let's take a quick check ski here. He is going in the middle of the 8th round of 12-team leagues, almost a 10th round in 10-team leagues. That's pretty good value for a guy that you know you're going to get flex value out of, especially in full PPR formats.
Yeah, definitely. And also remember, Marcus Mariota can run and be mobile, unlike Matt Ryan.
The statue of Matt Ryan.
The statue. Cool, Ryan. Well, man, we're going to let you go here. Appreciate you hopping on. Give me a message. Something comes up on a Monday or something like that. You're able to hop on. Let me know. Other than that, though, we'll talk to you when you get freed up a little bit.
Yeah.
See you, Ryan.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me on, and have fun in your draft tonight. Later tonight, Tanner.
Oh, I will. Trust me, guys. Make sure you guys check out the WAGME newsletter right up here on the screen. You can also hit up here to blog, some podcasts, and all that. And on the blogs here, How to Attack Best Ball. That's the one I've been going to every time. So
I'm very proud of that article. I appreciate all the promotion on that one.
So yeah, guys, make sure to check out Ryan's stuff. Ryan, catch you later, man.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
See you, dude. That was cool. Ryan Larrison, guys. See here, Atlanta could sneak up. Yeah, Carl. I mean, it's very true. It's very true that Atlanta could be that guy. So.
How much are they going to sneak up on anybody? Because are they going to sneak up on the Buccaneers? No, unless Tom Brady goes down. And then are they going to sneak up on are they sneaking up on the Saints? Like,
it depends if they don't execute.
I would still take the Saints unless Jameis, even with
Jameis gets hurt, it's done.
I don't know, because they weren't all that. Who's their backup? I don't even know who their backup is anymore.
We don't want to know.
Jameis did get hurt last year, and I don't know who was starting.
Yeah, well, it's Taysom after that, and somebody else.
Taysom Hill,
and Taysom's Taysom's tight end quarterback combo now.
Yeah, and then they started some guy. They were still in the playoff chase. Remember? And Monday night to
it was really
Ian
bad
Book,
Monday night.
I
bet you one guy who'll know here. Let us know who the backup for the Saints is from last year. It's probably Jude Jets, guys. Jude Jets is usually around the money.
What's up, y'all? And
What's up,
Saints
Jude?
Backup is Andy Dalton.
It is now.
Hey,
they
he
got
knows
it
when
changed.
rifles stick together. That's why he knows.
Oh, man.
Rockets stick together. Hey,
that's it. Jude, welcome in, dude. Thank you for joining, talking with us tonight. It's the New York Jets. There was crazy, I guess week and a half for the Jets as injury concerns come into play. Not the stuff you want to hear, but at least it wasn't horrible news in the end. So Zach Wilson, what is this? I got some kind of BS ad. So you lose Becton, your left tackle, to a knee injury, right?
Yeah, it was a new knee injury, different from what he had last year. So he's gonna be out for the season. Hasn't been placed on IR yet, though, which is definitely interesting. It's been a week since the injury, so
wasn't this like his second surgery in like the last 12 months or something like that? Or
he had
Project QB.
the surgery after the Panthers game. So in September, it's been all within a year. So it's definitely been a crazy thing going on with his surgeries. But hasn't placed on IR, so it might be coming.
That's hey, you just signed Dwayne Brown too. I think it was a 2-year deal.
Yeah, 2 years
in the end. So even if Becton comes back, that's death. That's death right there. And even if he's back, let's just say week 8, week 9, week 10, somewhere in the late, that's fresh legs too. So that's really nice to have. And then also in the preseason game, we all saw it. Zach Wilson tries to break out for a quick run, stumbles a little bit, looks like, and it's not a torn ACL. That's what we know. Not torn ACL.
Right.
Bone bruise and a meniscus tear, right?
Right.
Were the two diagnoses. So he has
two.
Surgery today, going to play, or surgery yesterday or today, one of the two. I can't remember when I read it. Tomorrow? Okay.
Right, yeah.
I knew he was having it sometime here
I thought
the
it was
next
today
day.
too, Tanner. So
Jude's on. So tomorrow. And then so that would put him back week 2. then, or we still maybe possibly week 1? What are we
They
looking at?
said 2 to 4 weeks. They haven't given us a new timetable yet, so I'm
Carlos.
assuming it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks. Possibility he plays week 1. Honestly, in my opinion, I think he's not going to play week 1. Let Joe Flacco have his revenge game, and then week 2 he comes back and hopefully does something against the Browns.
Jude, I'm just going to straight to the point here, man. I mean, it's reported that Flacco was already out playing Wilson. Let's just say Flacco has a great revenge game, and they go 1-0 with Joey Flacco. I mean, are the Jets better suited with Flacco at the helm than Zach Wilson? I mean, this injury might be the best thing that could have happened to the Jets, actually, because to me, you can't pull Wilson because you drafted him a number 2 overall, and this organization's tied to him. But if you got hurt and Flacco plays better, then you can say, hey, we're sticking with Joe Flacco because we want Wilson to be healthy, and Flacco is playing well right now. So, I mean, is this a blessing in disguise for Jets fans?
I mean, my personal thing with Joe Flacco, because during training camp, the dude was doing amazing. I joked around in a thumbnail for one of my videos one time saying Joe Flacco was better than Tom Brady because he was just playing that good during training camp, like day after day, practice after practice, throwing nothing but bombs, beautiful passes. But the way I looked at it was he was throwing, because Joe Flacco always worked with the second team. And, whenever he would make these, awesome plays, it would always be to these first team receivers. For some reason, the New York Jets would like to, swap out, receivers, get some of the, guys kind of like Rashad Davis, these lower depth chart guys, some first team reps. When that would happen, they would move those guys, our first team players, down to the second team. At least that's the way I kind of took it. I'm pretty sure that's the way they did it because, every now and then we would have like Jeff Smith on the first team catching passes from Zach Wilson. So I would be like, I guess, they moved Elijah Moore down to the second team for a play. So whenever I would look at that, I honestly thought that the New York Jets moved the players down to the second team. And of course, Elijah Moore is going to sauce someone up, a backup player who's probably not even going to be on the roster. Of course, Elijah Moore is going to have a field day with that. And whenever Joe Flacco was making all these plays, I'm like, whoa, I mean, how is he not going to make those plays when Elijah Moore's wide open down the field? So that's kind of the way I looked at it whenever Joe Flacco was playing really well during training camp because, technically he has been out playing Zach Wilson, but then at the same time he's not. So it's kind of like a weigh-in situation. You can look at it how you want. But, so far with the first team, he's been playing pretty solid in practice, hasn't been making many highlight plays, but he's been consistent. You've had Garrett Wilson come out and said in a press conference today that Joe Flacco, he's a veteran. He has that experience, and he's kind of more in control. Or I'm not really sure what his exact words were, but he said Joe Flacco has that experience, and that's the difference from having Wilson as your quarterback, a second-year player, and Joe Flacco, who's been in the league for 10-plus years and is a Super Bowl MVP. But honestly, if Joe Flacco does win week 1 and has a really good game, honestly, I do think you roll with Zach Wilson. I feel like you put Zach Wilson on the field when he's ready. Don't rush the injury at all, especially if Joe Flacco's playing good. But, you put Zach Wilson on the field. Don't rush the injury whenever he's healthy. And if he plays good, he plays good. I mean, he's been our starter for the entire week, for throughout training camp. We've had a lot of people by, receivers and tight ends come out expressing their love for Zach Wilson. And if they have all this comfort in him, if they have all this faith in him, honestly, just roll him out there. He is our second overall pick quarterback. There's a reason he was picked second overall. And I feel like once he's ready, put him on the field, no matter how good Joe Flacco is playing.
Jude, gotcha. But you're saying that your receivers and tight ends are coming out supporting Zach Wilson. What are they supposed to say? They ain't going to say their quarterback that throws on the ball that he sucks. Now, I can say that he sucks, but they're not going to say he sucks.
Well, yeah, you get better answers. You're gonna get more distinct, simple answers if he's really bad than just this guy sucks, right? You're gonna get different answers. You're gonna notice it in these press conferences when he's brought up.
Right, and another thing that I kind of noticed between Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold is Zach Wilson does a whole lot more things with the team off the field. He builds a lot more chemistry. Players actually probably like the dude. Sam Darnold would spend, his entire offseason chilling in a beach house with Josh Allen somewhere. And, that's kind of how, I feel like, we didn't really have all these players coming out saying all these things about or Sam Darnold. Of course the players aren't going to come out and just totally trash Zach Wilson because, that's not what you do. You got to hype up your quarterback. But it's just a difference between what our players are saying the good things about Sam Darnold and what they're saying about Zach Wilson. That's just kind of how I look at it.
Gotcha. So quick comments here. Carlos is the Facebook user. So Carlos thinks 6 to 8 weeks for Zach Wilson. He says Flacco is the new Testaverde.
True though. That could be true. I mean, why
Who
not?
knows?
I guess.
Remember, one time Flacco was elite, folks.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. He was. Hey, maybe the mindset's different too, right? Maybe it took a few years for his mindset to come back around, and now it's cleaned up, and now he's ready to go out and play football again. Ryan's commenting here. Jude, I think I'd go Mike White and shoot for the moon rather than start Flacco. That's what I said, I think, the other day too. Who would you rather have start for your personally? Would you have Flacco or White?
Mike White, obviously, he had that one awesome game last year, threw for over 400 yards, beat the Cincinnati Bengals, AFC champions. Fantastic performance from him. But outside of that one game against the Bengals, Mike White's done nothing but play bad football. We saw it in, I guess, his debut against the Patriots. The game Zach Wilson went out, terrible. The game against the Bills, terrible. We had to take out Mike White and put Joe Flacco in. There's a reason why we re-signed Joe Flacco, and we did re-sign Mike White. We do have that faith in Mike White, but there is a reason we signed Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's been getting these second-team reps, and the New York Jets don't want to throw away the season. We signed Dwayne Brown. If the New York Jets really didn't want to compete this year, we would have rolled with someone like Max Mitchell, our fourth-round pick this year, and see what we have in them. So we have signed all these veteran players. We want to win this year. And if you want to win, you start the best backup on your roster, which is, in my opinion, Joe Flacco, the guy who's been getting, the first team reps.
Yeah,
So-
I fully agree with you there. I think
Let's
you've
just
got to
say-
start Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I think you start Joe Flacco too. And let's just say, how would you feel if, let's just say Wilson's out first month of the season, Jets are 3-1. And you still saying bring back in Zach Wilson? Or are you just saying, hey, let's ride this Flacco train? Because at 3-1, man, nobody would think the Jets. You probably know their first four opponents. I don't have their schedule on him, so I'm just hypothetically here. They're 3-1 after the first month of the season. Are you still saying, hey, let's put Wilson in? Are you going to be okay starting Flacco? Because if Wilson struggles, let's just say they put Wilson in and he loses the next two games after that. There's going to be a lot of clamoring for Joe Flacco, especially with that New York media.
So, Nick, your first four games are versus Baltimore, at Cleveland, versus Cincy, at Pittsburgh. That's your first four.
They could go 500.
They could go 2-2, easy.
Easily. They could go 0-4, and they could go 2-2.
They could do that too easily too.
Oh yeah.
It's all right there. So.
If Joe Flacco were to start off the season 3-1, depending on how he's playing, if Joe Flacco's coming out and having an Aaron Rodgers 2021 type season.
Whoa, Jude. Don't say Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco in the same sentence ever again.
If he's having
do that.
This just amazing season, and looks like he's MVP, he's in these conversations, and it's going to be hard. If Joe Flacco's really playing this elite football, then, it might be hard to take him out. Honestly, I don't think we're going to see that from Joe Flacco, which, if we do start 3-1, awesome, amazing, put in Zach Wilson. Because if Joe Flacco can lead this team to 3-1, why can't Zach Wilson? If Joe Flacco can lead us to 3-1, Zach Wilson can lead us to 4-0. That's the way I look at it.
Because Zach Wilson ain't good, Jude. That's why.
Camp, he's been
why
balling.
He can't do it.
He's been balling.
Look, here's the deal.
Here's
the deal, right? Zach Wilson's the guy to start anyways if he was healthy to go with, right? He's going to be the hype, be the guy. You have to start Zach Wilson to see what you're getting. It's just like Becton. The whole reason Becton was still around, and you said this too, Jude, on the Let's Talk Sports show, the whole reason is to see what you have. You're not winning the Super Bowl as the Jets. We can tell you that right now. It's not a chance. But you need to see if you're on that trajectory or not. To win the Super Bowl, do you have the right tools? Do you have the right pieces? Can Zach Wilson take the step? And if you don't start him this year, then you're Josh Rosen in him essentially, and he's gone after 1 year, after one rookie lousy year. So that's how I feel about the Zach Wilson. You have to start him, whether he goes 3-1, 4-0, or 2-2, or whatever it is for Joe Flacco. You have to start him as soon as he's healthy because you got to see what you got there. Or unless, because if you go, let's just say you go 3 wins, get at least the first or second pick, you got to know if you got to take a quarterback there now, or try to hope that Zach Wilson steps up. That's a whole big deal.
I mean, right. I just want to see what we have in Zach Wilson. I don't care how good Joe Flacco's playing. We just need to see what we have in Wilson.
Yeah.
We drafted him second overall.
Agree.
I mean, you can't just. I mean, yeah, Joe Flacco, he plays great. That's awesome. We know that if Zach Wilson sucks, we have a good backup in him. But we need to know if we have a good starting quarterback in Zach Wilson. I would rather know how good my starter is than how good my backup is. That's just how I look at it. And Joe Flacco is elite. I don't know why people aren't saying he is. I mean, he's just elite. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Carlos, the OC and coaching staff is too young still to be called trash yet. Give them this year, and then we'll see if they're trash.
I do like the Jets coaching staff. They probably will be a top 5 pick. I do. Yes, I do. Exactly.
Carlos is all for it.
Carlos, yes, I've been trying to tell you that. Zach does suck. I'm trying. But Jude, you can tell Jude is young. He's a believer. He's not. I love it, Jude. I love you. Yes, man, I love you. I had that young, inspiring self once in my life too.
Tyler Paco, baby.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Oh man. Hey, Jude, one last question here for the Jets here before we let you go. You did a training camp recap video today for 4 minutes here, about I guess an hour ago or so. I watched it before we hopped on. So, who's a guy so far through preseason and training camps that stood out to you that might be like a middle guy on your roster?
First off, y'all can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All right. I didn't know if I accidentally hit my mute button on my mic. All right. Anyway.
I know. You're talking bad about Nick and Carlos. Don't worry. I know.
So, one guy, Calvin Jackson. I mean, definitely has to be Calvin Jackson. This was a dude. He's impressed me so far during camp. I mean, he wasn't originally an undrafted free agent. We signed him to be a workout player during rookie minicamp. Just brought him on as a workout. He ended up impressing us so much. We signed him to an undrafted free agent contract. And then, he's just been balling throughout training camp, caught the game-winning touchdown in the last preseason game against the Eagles. And he's just been doing really good so far in training camp. He's starting to get more first-team reps. And this is a guy that, I mean, he was not even signed as an undrafted free agent. He really wants this roster spot. He's going to work really hard for it. And honestly, I could see him being the 7th or 6th receiver on this Jets roster. Might not get any playing time, but I definitely feel like he could make the roster. That's just been one guy that's really stood out so far in camp to me. Another guy would probably have to be Zonovan Bam Knight, undrafted free agent out of North Carolina State. He's had a really solid training camp, scored a touchdown in the preseason game against the Eagles. I definitely could see him making it. And then the last guy, Lawrence Cager, he's a guy that we signed as an undrafted free agent back in 2020. And, he was a receiver whenever we signed him, but the guy's like 6'5". I've said last off season, this guy's not good as a receiver, but he has the body of a tight end. Why not switch him? And we ended up switching him. The Jets, for some reason, didn't give me credit, but I'm fine with it. But as
where's
tight
the payday?
end, exactly. Where's the payday? I could have got us the next Pro Bowl tight end or something. I didn't get no credit. It's shameful. But Lawrence Cager had I want to say a 29-yard catch against the Eagles this past week. Ended up with 2 catches for 40 yards in the preseason game. He's been having a really solid camp, and having him on the roster maybe is like a 4th tight end, which, you don't really want 4 tight ends on your roster, but, if that's what we have to do because we had that much faith in Cager, then, maybe put him on the roster. But, those are definitely 3 players that have stood out to me so far in training camp.
Cool.
Jude,
cool.
I got one question before we get you out of here. What's your realistic expectations on the Jets here? Because I got them finishing dead last in the division again. That's just the division's improved everybody but them, and the Jets did improve a little, but just not as enough as far as anybody else to me. So what's your realistic expectations? Try to put your fanhood aside. I know that's tough for you right now. But put your fanhood aside, make a realistic expectations here for your team.
I said on like the AFC East preview I did on the channel, like, what was it, about a month ago?
Yeah, about a month ago now.
Yeah, about a month ago. Hopped on. I said my record prediction 8-9. I mean, only reason I say 8-9, and I know you're a huge Packer fan right there, so this is probably gonna, cause some emotions. But I, for some reason, and whenever the schedule was released, I've just had this gut feeling that for some reason we're beating the Green Bay Packers. I have no reason why, but we beat one playoff team every single year, and I just think it's gonna be the Packers this season. I have no idea, but that one upset, I just feel like it's going to be the Packers. And every year, we just make these crazy upsets. And when I make the record prediction, I had the upsets counted in there. I mean, it could be against the Bills, who knows? But honestly, I could realistically see us going 7-10. That beginning of the season, as you were saying, we could go 3-1. We could go 2-2 with Deshaun Watson 100% being suspended for that week 2 game. I definitely feel like that could give the New York Jets an edge. Pittsburgh Steelers, who knows what they have in them. I definitely feel like Jets-Steelers, even matchup. Definitely feel like we could beat them. We play teams like the Lions. We play teams like the Bears, the Jaguars towards the end of the season. I could all see us getting wins over them. I can't really remember the schedule from the top of my head, but whenever I was looking at it, I could feel 7. I could feel 8 wins. Honestly, realistically, I've been seeing some people online, not Jets fans, kind of saying the same thing. And I mean, it just depends on how Zach Wilson, stays out. If the injury is more serious than we thought, then, I could definitely see us winning at maybe 6 or hopefully not even 5, but it could be a possibility depending on how, our backup quarterbacks play. But 7-10, realistically, but with, the one upset, I'm kind of feeling 8. But, I mean, it's just
you guys will have Ryan's out there talking smack. You guys do upset. I mean, you guys upset the Titans last year, upset the Bengals, what you mentioned. So, I mean, but, Jude, I'm going to keep this receipt now.
We're coming back to that.
My Packers,
We're coming
I got
back
it pinned on my I got it pinned on Twitter. So, I mean, hopefully he doesn't come back to bite me in the butt.
Hey, I'm gonna retweet that on your Twitter, Jude. I follow you. So
I like it.
I'm gonna make sure it's retweeted. I'm gonna say what when that happens, Jude.
I like it. Well,
keep that receipt.
Jude, thank you for joining, talking Jets with us. We'll have you on again for sure. Always appreciate you.
We're gonna have him back on when the Packers beat the Jets.
Yeah, we're gonna do a preview and a post game, so don't worry. Guys, make sure you go check out Jude Jets on YouTube. He's also on Let's Talk Sports posting as well. He does pregame, postgame of Jet stuff as well, because we did on the Chiefs as well, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, go check out his content. It's great stuff. He does really great article on Twitter as well, so check him out. Jude Jets. Jude, thanks again, man.
See you, Jude.
Thank y'all for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jude.
Jude Jets, everybody. Such a great guy to have on. So I think it's time. Take a time to switch gears, guys. We're wrapping up towards the playoffs time almost here. We're in mid-August. We only about a month and a half left of baseball. So let's get into it. All right, guys. Welcome me in Jonathan Grishman of Alpha Performance. Once again.
Comeback player of the year from what we heard. Comeback player for the year.
I wouldn't go that far yet.
You a little sore after playing yesterday?
Not a little.
No, not a little. You are.
How'd it feel to be back out there, man?
Man, I tell you, it was a lot of fun. I had back surgery back in January, so I wanted to make sure I can kind of get out there and run around a little bit. So I definitely enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to at least get back and compete. By the 4th or 5th inning, I was like, okay, I'm not used to this anymore, though. So it kind of got me. It caught up to me a little bit too sooner than I thought I was, but. It was kind of field, getting some pitches thrown at me and everything. So I'm hoping maybe at some point I get a free weekend from coaching and go back out and compete again at some point, and maybe throw my hat for a comeback at some point next year.
Hey, we're gonna see you back in the minors. Before we know it, we're gonna be talking to no longer ex-professional baseball player Jonathan Grisham. It's gonna be professional baseball player again, Jonathan Grisham. Huh?
Maybe. Who knows what the future's gonna hold on that.
Hey, the Cubs could use a first baseman.
Ah,
They could. They could. Hey, I'm still good with the glove. I can go play defense with anybody out there.
Hey, we could use you. We could use you.
cool. Well, let's talk about our series of the week here with Jonathan. So the Cardinals and Brewers just finished up a 3-game series. The Cardinals took it 2-1. Unfortunately for me, because I got a relation with my brother there at Milwaukee. So, but yeah, St. Louis is cruising here at 7-3 in their last 10. Milwaukee's 4-6 of their last 10, and it just hasn't been great since the All-Star break for Milwaukee. What do you got so far in this take of that series and the impact it brings towards this next month and a half?
It just confirms that the Cardinals are the class of the division right now. I mean, they were able to not just catch the Brewers, but I mean they've been able to just outplay them every time they've been able to take this series right now. So it just shows that the Cardinals are above the Brewers right now. They've passed them in the division, and they've passed them talent-wise on the field, and they're the hot team in the division right now, running away with it. So and we've been saying this since I talked to you guys about that we were expecting the Cardinals to catch fire at some point, and sure enough, they did. And I mean, the pitching side has just been phenomenal. With the one loss of this series, Wainwright went 9 innings in a 10-inning ball game, and it was one. I mean, that's who would have thought at 38 years old, 39 years old, Wainwright could still go 9 innings like that and compete, and you had a chance to win a game. So the pitching side is what's carrying them past the Brewers, and offensively they're doing enough. But the pitching is what's really kind of is the difference maker between those two teams, which is a little surprising because the Brewers for the last few years had the pitching staff that was the class of the NL Central, and right now the old veteran is in Uncle Charlie is part of the group that's just that's carrying the Cardinals, and along with Nicholas as well. I mean they're carrying that division. They passed the Brewers, and it's not even close right now. And I don't see the Brewers being within 5 games by the end of the season within the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, if you look at both of their schedules, just towards let's just say the last half of the month of September and the October here, Brewers have as of let's just say the St. Louis series, so September 13th, they got St. Louis, New York. So the Yankees, then Mets, go to Cincy. They have St. Louis again. And then you got Miami, who's a team that's not to be taken lightly by any means. And then Arizona to finish out the season versus St. Louis. We go to September 13th. So they got Milwaukee for 2 games. Then they got Cincy after that. They got the Padres, the Dodgers, Milwaukee. And then they finish out with a 6 game, 6 games versus Pittsburgh. 3 at home, 3 away. So, and that's the team you would love to finish on doing the last 6 games.
Oh,
so it kind of seems like St. Louis has the advantage in the end of year schedule if Milwaukee doesn't get stuff going correctly.
And even so, I mean, you have the tougher teams in that you have left schedule, but again, the Cardinals are, as we mentioned before, as I said to you guys, as well as the other show, they are doing the little things right and being that competitive team that can scare these postseason teams that can really do some damage in October that some of these teams are struggling doing. My Braves are not doing it is what the Cardinals are doing. It's the little things that baseball matters the most when you get to October. This Cardinals team is becoming a dangerous team, so they can really shake up this postseason, especially against some of the top teams they're going to have left in their schedule. They'll be competitive in those games. I don't think it's going to be a walk around just because the Central's a little weak right now compared to the West and in the East and the National League. The Cardinals are a team that does the things the right way. They compete very well on the mound, and they battle in the batter's box. So I mean, I don't hold that team very lightly when it comes to how competitive they can be the rest of the season going into the postseason.
Yeah, that's how they always done it though. Like that's the Cardinal way. Like that's what makes you so mad when you're a team like the Cubs, a fan of the Cubs, or even the Brewers, is because like the Cardinals continually every year somehow, some way find a way. They do the right things. I mean, how is it like just built from like the top to the bottom? Like it's teams like them, like even you talked about the Atlanta Braves as well. Like how are these teams that just it seems like they just keep adding pieces or
just
even
reload?
they just reload, or they find different guys or different names. They're not big, huge marquee names. The Cardinals ain't going out buying guys. They're not the Yankees or the Dodgers and buying the best ball players that, they can get. But somehow they just make the right moves, and guys just have their best years. I mean, these Cardinals still have the old, brought back the old crew with bringing back Pujols on a reunion tour here, and he hit 2 home runs yesterday.
Real quick, that Pujols, since July 6th, Albert Pujols is batting .365, .414, .730. This guy is on fire.
Yeah.
How do they keep doing this?
It's culture. I mean, that's really what it is. The culture for the Cardinals for the last 25 years is the culture of the Braves for the last 30 years, from the 90s, the team of the 90s that carried 14 division titles in a row to where we are now 4 division titles in a row here in the 2020s. It's a culture that they were able to build. And you have certain time frames that you get away from that culture, where the Braves had that for a 5-year stretch where they missed the postseason in the 2010s. And they were able to rediscover it and be able to say, hey, let's go back to what made us who we are, what made us our team, what made us the organization that we have been so successful. The Cardinals are no exception to that. They were able to continue the culture of what made them such a successful organization in the World Series runs in the 2000s and winning in the early 2010s. It's a culture thing, and you go find it in the scouts. The scouts who've been there for 15, 20 years, they know that, and they go, all right, this is the MO that we need to find players to be able to be like, and this is how we're going to develop them to be, this. We're not turning them into a Chris Carpenter. We're not turning them into an Adam Wainwright. We're going to turn them into what we want them to be, and they're going to just go and develop and be the next level of the future generation of a Wainwright and Carpenter. They're going to be the next generation of leaders of this clubhouse, like a Pujols and like a Molina. And you throw in a guy like Nolan Arenado, who bought in. He did buy into the culture of what the Cardinals' success has become. So it's a culture thing, and you have it's from the top all the way to the top, from the team to the owner, team president, general manager, to your scouts, to your coaching department, all the way down to the players that all buy into what the culture is. The Braves is no different. They've been that way for 30 years, and they have to have everybody buy in. If you don't buy in, even if it's one or a couple people that don't buy into it, the whole system doesn't work. So it's a organizational run culture that makes the Cardinals so successful, and they continue to be that way.
Yeah. So looking at the stats here for just slugging percentage for the league this year, Paul Goldschmidt for St. Louis, it has a .612, third best in the league, and then not shortly far behind him is Nolan Arenado with the sixth best at .559. Like, this is a team that just swings the bat. And they, speaking, Nick, you were talking about like the culture and stuff like, or what do they do? They already got a young guy down, I think in AA right now. I heard that's just swinging the crap out of the bat right now, and he's looking phenomenal. So he could be a big leaguer by next year, who places Albert Pujols as Pujols retires. So
you talked about Goldschmidt, and he's leading the National League. I mean, is he your front runner for National League MVP? Because right now he leads the National League in batting average. He's fourth in home runs and second in RBIs. I mean, is he your National League MVP right now?
Hands down. I mean, I hate that because I hate that because I love what Austin Riley has done. As a Braves fan, Austin Riley is putting himself in the conversation of MVP, but Goldschmidt has that average. He's been more consistent throughout the season from beginning to where we are today. So and he's got the numbers leading, all the basic numbers of Major League Baseball. He's leading the analytical numbers. I mean, and that's where the award really comes in play right now, is what does your analytics say? And Goldschmidt is leading in just about every category you can think of. And he is becoming that face of the franchise where, with the path of the guard of Pujols, Molina, and it's becoming now Goldschmidt's team. So he is the front runner. I don't see, again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong for Austin Riley to jump them if I want to be biased, but the unbiased side of me, it's Goldschmidt's award to win. For MVP, I don't think it's going to be close when it's all said and done.
Yeah, he's finally having I think he's having the season that they thought that when they traded for him that the player that he would become. He's finally putting it all together. Because I mean, he had some great years in Arizona, and I'm not saying he's been bad here in St. Louis. He just hasn't been, I don't think, their like marquee guy that they thought they was going to get or so. And then, but this year he's put it all together. And I think he's had a lot of protection though, too, when you add Arenado, who's been healthy, and then you add Pujols.
And that's the difference. That's the difference where when he joined the Cardinals, it was still Molina's team. He went from being the number one guy in Arizona to, all right, I got to play Robin to Batman Molina and everything. And that does take an adjustment. That takes an adjustment for, in any sport. We hear that all the time in sports about guys that, join a team and they're having to go from being the top dog to the number two. And Goldschmidt was, I'm speaking hyperbole that, it could have been that way, that he was struggling to say, hey, how do I play when I'm not the guy? How do I go about, as far as where I was a leader in Arizona's clubhouse, to I'm another guy, with Molina and Wainwright being the ones and twos of this clubhouse. So now the passing of that guard is really taking over, with Goldschmidt being the number one guy. Because everybody, again, we know Molina is on the back end of his career, Pujols on the back end of his career, Wainwright on the back of his career. So you have that feeling that Goldschmidt is becoming that number one leader of the team, with Arenado being his sidekick as well. So that comfortability of being the number one really is going to set in, and that's what it's done for Goldschmidt this year. And he's just running away with it. He's taking off as far as what the success he's had this season.
Yeah. So Carlos, hang tight. We're going to get to your question here in a minute. But I do got a question here, just based on the wild card, kind of get your thoughts. So Tatis gets suspended for, the illegal drug use, whatever deal going into play. So now the Padres, we're hoping to get that big bat, coming into play. Hopefully it was supposed to, I think this week he was supposed to be back. And then all that's happened now, kind of shook the roster up a little bit again. So they're also 4-6 in their last 10. They're even. So they're sitting on the last part of the wild card. Do you see the Padres maybe dropping out due to this whole deal outside of all the weapons they have? Or do you see Milwaukee not, they're a game and a half out, just like they are the division in St. Louis? Do you see Milwaukee, like we talked about last week? You said most likely they're on the outside looking in. Do you still feel that way going into play?
I do. I think I would be shocked if the Padres fall out of the playoff race, or they fall out of the wild card. I'd be very shocked. I think there's just too much talent. Even with Tatis, out, Tatis hasn't played a single game this season. So it's not like you're losing stats that you didn't have that you had this year. You had his replacement playing all season. So you add guys to that lineup like a Brandon Drury, like obviously Juan Soto. So you're adding those pieces that are getting comfortable and getting used to the system in San Diego. But you're losing a talent like Tatis, but you're not losing his stats because he didn't play yet. So I think there's just too much talent that San Diego has compared to the Brewers right now that I think it'd be a huge collapse if the Padres fall out of the wild card, and it would be a huge failure in San Diego, where you have to start questioning the front office decisions in that aspect of it. Because again, you make these decisions not just this year, but you also made the decisions of bringing of certain trades of Snell and Darvish. You re-upped on Musgrove, so you're putting this team together to compete today, compete now, as well as making trades for Juan Soto and giving up the haul of prospects you gave up in your future to get that back to compete in 2022 for a World Series. So if they fail this season and don't make the playoffs, you're going to have some major questions at AJ Preller in the front office in San Diego. But I don't see that happening. I think there's just too much talent in San Diego. I don't think the Brewers have enough right now. And again, we talked about their mentality right now after the trade deadline. And it's starting to show that they don't feel the front office believes that they can compete right now. And that's why they made some of these trades, and they're playing down to what they were supposed to be doing. So there's just too much things that are compounding right now against the Brewers that the Padres should not lose card spot.
Gotcha.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
The team that those guys are competing with is the Phillies. How the Phillies turned it around? Because this is a team that fired their manager at the beginning of the year. And, usually when you fire your manager, that's a punt to the season. Hey, we're just going to wrap it up here. But they're right there in the wild card spot. In fact, they're half a game up on these two teams, on the Padres and the Brewers. So how have they turned it around, and what are they doing here? I mean, you fire manager, that's a end of the season.
You would think, but sometimes, I mean, you see this quite a bit at times where a firing of your manager brings a clubhouse together. And I mean, they weren't a bad team; they were just playing bad. That was the difference. Is that their roster is a really talented roster. It has holes in it, and that's the front office part to blame. That Girardi, kind of was a scapegoat in certain aspects of. But then when you look at how this team's played since the firing, he probably was an issue in the clubhouse. And that team just absolutely rallied together to compete, and they're right there. It's a talented team. Even with Bryce Harper out right now, you have your number one ace and Aaron Nola. You have good offensive pieces in Reese Hoskins. Rio Muto is another one. Alec Boehm is played well at times. I mean, that's a talented team. They just had bad opportunities at bad moments at the beginning of the year that Girardi had to go. And when you get that opportunity, when you get that phone call or you get that meeting with the manager, or that the team has went in a different direction, and you made the firing of your manager, you have to sit there and say, well, okay, that's one guy who's been blamed for this. The next who's going to get blamed is us as players. So they have to sit there and say, we have to be able to answer the bell now. We have to compete, because if we don't, heads are going to be spinning in the locker room and in the clubhouse that it's going to be us, our fault. And I mean, guys like Harper and Hoskins and Realmuto, they're not going anywhere on that roster. So it's going to be the younger guys that has to step up a little bit more to make sure that they're coming back in the next year or two, that they're going to be getting that next contract. So it was a rallying cry that team that needed. And it's a realization that, hey, one guy just got blamed. We're the next ones, if not, or because at that point the front office is going to be trying to make decisions to get better for the next season, and that's where it then goes from manager, players, and then the blame goes to the front office side on that aspect of it. So it was just a rallying cry. I mean, again, the team was a good roster. It just had holes beginning of the season, and then they kind of figured out a little bit here and there, but it kind of been a little bit too late for them to make that run to compete right now.
Yeah, I agree there. See here, there's one. Carlos is asking, John, what's your thoughts so far on the Mets picking up those 3 DHs? So we talked about the Mets last week, Vogelbach and those guys. Any updated thoughts on them? Obviously the Mets are, what are they? They're still leading the division, so they haven't really dropped off at all. So what are your thoughts there?
Decision making for Buck Showalter to do play matchups, and we saw that with the Braves and Mets played last week, where you put in Vogelbach to start, and then when the Braves made a pitching change and brought in a lefty pitcher, you brought in Darren Ruff. So it was a chess piece that he's added for situational in that lineup, and that's all you needed. You don't need an everyday player in that DH with that lineup with Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. You just needed extra chess pieces to play matchups with in there. And you have good matchups when Vogelbach is in the lineup. Darren Ruff has times where he can be dangerous as a right-handed hitter in that lineup. I mean, it's all about matchups. And Showalter has showed this season how well he is when it comes to playing matchups with that lineup. And it showed last week against the Braves, and it continues to do so. So it was a smart decision. And again, you don't need the everyday player in that spot. You just need somebody that you can play matchups with. And so far, it's really worked out. Vogelbach has really has turned a corner this season and played really well for what the Mets needed. Ruff is dangerous at times when he has an opportunity to be in the lineup. So it was definitely good moves to bring in, and it was able to make that lineup a little bit more versatile.
Yeah, I fully there. So let's talk a little bit a weird, exciting team going into play. Baltimore Orioles a couple of days ago actually had their own wild card spot. Now they're down. What are they down? 2 games now. They just lost down a game and a half to the Rays, who they were facing this last series. What are we thinking here? I mean, this is a team that I think went 7-2 before the last couple of days. Now they're 6-4, but they just lost a perfect in the 9th to lose to the Rays. Was that yesterday, I believe? To Rasmussen lost it. So what are we thinking here? Is this Orioles team for real, or are we just seeing a team clicking and having some luck here?
They are a young team that's exciting, but they're about a year or two still too early right now. And I think that's where we kind of saw what the Mariners were going to be like last year that didn't get the success that the Orioles have right now. And that's the interesting aspect of where they're at. They're exciting. I mean, who would have thought baseball in Baltimore would be exciting again? And so you have a young group, you have a talented group that they're just a year or two away from being competitors in that division. I think that if they're able to make a run at this end and be able to make a playoff push, even if they don't make it, that's a success in Baltimore. That is a huge success for what they've been able to be like over the last decade. Since Buck Showalter really was the last manager, I think it was the last time they were very successful and able to win ball games, let alone win and compete for a division. They're just too young right now. I compared to teams like the Blue Jays, compared to the Rays, right now they're competing for, compared to the Mariners, they're not there yet. They're still a little bit away from being that competitive team for a wild card, even for a wild card. They're still 2 years away from being competitors in the division in the American League East. But it's exciting. I'm almost having to want to watch them play a little bit, just because like you have so much young talent on that roster. Even despite trading Trey Mancini away to Houston at the deadline, it makes things a little bit interesting as far as how good this team could be, not just the rest of the season, but the future.
Yeah, they're. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick. Oh, you're muted. I don't know if you mute yourself.
I did mute myself. I was coughing.
There you go.
That division is tough, and they're third in that division. And the Red Sox are dead last, and they're 4.5. But the winner of that division, and they've won the division pretty much, is the Yankees. But they're struggling right now. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. Are they just, is it something that Yankee fans should be, oh my gosh, or just, hey, it's a long season, you're going to go through these spoils? These are the 2022 Yankees and not the 27 Yankees.
Man, I've been kind of waiting for the Yankees to come back to earth. And I feel like that's what we're seeing a little bit right now. Is they had a lot of good breaks. They had a lot of opportunities where they played. They played some weaker teams a lot, and they beat up a lot of weaker teams. They did compete against their own division and beat up on the Blue Jays and beat up on the Rays. But when they compete against the Astros at times, they had that one series in New York. They did win, but they went down to Houston and they struggled a little bit. And then all of a sudden, since the second half started, they've kind of been coming down to earth a little bit. And it's the pitching and the injuries. I won't take away what the injuries have done to them. But the pitching side, where they were really good for the first half of the season, the beginning part going into May, they were really good as a pitching staff. And right now they've kind of sputtered a little bit in the second half, and that's what's going to hurt them as you go into postseason play. Is the pitching side has to be what carries you. The offense can only go so far in postseason. Pitching beats hitting in October, and right now we're kind of seeing a little bit of what the pitching staff has struggled. And when the pitching staff struggles and you're giving up, 4, 5, 6 runs a game, the offense has to be able to click and be able to carry. And that's what we're seeing right now is they're struggling. I think they only scored, 5 runs against the Red Sox all weekend? For that lineup to have that happen, that shouldn't happen. But it is right now. So I feel like we're seeing the Yankees come to earth a little bit. Does it mean they're going to give up the lead in the division? No, they're still going to win the American League East. I think that 10-game lead is just too much. But it does cause for concern when you get into postseason play. Are they strong enough to compete, not just with the Astros, but when you go against a team like the Blue Jays that can catch fire and match you at a little bit here and there. So I would, if I'm a Yankee fan, I am a little bit concerned right now. And if it continues to go into September, I'm very concerned.
Right now, they're 3 back of the Astros for that first place seed. Do you since they're up 10 games, do players put it in cruise control? We're going to win this division. We're headed to the playoffs. There's not really much for us to play for. Maybe in the month of August, we'll turn it back on in September. Is that a thing? Because we've seen NBA teams and even some NFL teams kind of, it seems like they coast for a little bit and then can turn it on. Is that possible in baseball?
They don't get that bye if they're a 2 seed though this year. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think only the 1 seed gets the actual bye, so they have to play. Right. So that should be some kind of incentive.
And to answer it, at times it can. You have some times where it's a long season. I mean, again, I know a lot of fans will talk about and complain about how long the season is, and sometimes players do as well. It's 162 games. That's a lot of ball games, and you kind of get drawn out a little bit by this point. In the end of the summer, when you get into August, and you're like, okay, these games, we're almost to the end point. We're almost to where games actually do matter for the postseason play right now. So you have at times that happens, and it comes to the clubhouse, it comes to the leadership of the team, that it has to be the ones to say that we cannot catch this lull. We have to make sure we stay competitive, because it's not just for the division right now. We're competing for the number one seed, and that's where it's the disappointing side. If you're competing for the number one seed in the postseason and you're catching this lull right now and you're just sleepwalking the last couple weeks, that's not a good sign. I mean, yeah, you'll still win the division, but you just gave up that number one seed, which that's home field. And you have to go to Houston 4 times for 7 games. And and we've seen what Houston looks like in October. That's not fun. It's not fun for an opposing team. So if you being in New York, in New York and in the Bronx, October is pretty cold. So you have that advantage over some of these teams, especially a team like Houston, who does not, plays in an indoor stadium. So there's a lot of incentive that if you were the number one seed, that you carry that home field advantage throughout. If that's not incentivizing you to go out and push the envelope more in August to make sure that you secure not just your division, but you go compete for that number one seed, I don't know what is. But the answer, you have moments where guys will lose sight of the long-term goal for a few weeks and kind of sleepwalk a little bit, and they're like, oh crap, we got to turn it back on because we still have 4 weeks left to play as the calendar turns in September. It happens, and it's unfortunate. It sucks at times.
October season does suck in NYC. Never been, but I know it sucks. I've seen it. Oh man, that's crazy. And by the way, I just want to throw this out there to squash all the Baltimore Orioles fans. Your last 4 series is a 4 game against Houston, 4 games against Boston, 3 games against the Yankees, and 3 games against Toronto to end the season.
You win that though, you're in the playoffs. I mean,
man, you take care of that business there. That you go sweep every single game. You might be looking at a good playoff berth, but yeah, it's a little rough. A little rough to end for an Orioles team. So hey,
if you finish over 500 and you're within 3 to 5 games of a wild card spot,
I might push it.
That's a success. I mean, I was saying you're now building to be competitive in 2023. If you're that way, I mean, nobody would have thought that. Nobody would have expected Baltimore to be in that position, and yet here we are. We're talking about it here in the middle of August. So
right,
if you're a 500 team and you're 5 games out of a wild card spot, do a parade in Baltimore and be really excited for what 2023 could look like.
Man, World Series 23-20. Let's go, baby. You know what? At least one of us out of us 3 has a winning team, so I'm glad your Braves are doing well.
Yeah, last I saw they're up 4-0 on the Mets right now, so I'm gonna be very happy about that if it holds. So
let's see. I'll get you. I can get you a quick score update. Braves are up 5-1.
Oh, I'm about to say you about to have me get really upset if that happens.
Yeah, I'm about to get live air Jonathan mad. So man, that's crazy. Hey, that's good news. So Jonathan, as always, we appreciate hopping on, coming to chat baseball with us. So
definitely, guys.
Can't wait to talk. Hopefully next week we can get you on as well, and we'll just keep doing it. Right? I mean, might as well.
Absolutely. No, definitely, guys. Always enjoy it. Yeah. Always enjoy doing this. Looking forward to next week. I'll definitely plan to get on here with you guys again.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Jonathan Grishman with Alpha Performance. He had his comeback. By the way, in case anybody didn't catch the beginning, he had his comeback game. He got to play in a play-in game yesterday. So he said he was sore for sure. So it's always fun. It's always fun to do that. Man, Nick, you got anything else for us today? I figured I'd save your breath for it. We'll skip the UFC minute, save your breath until you get caught up next week.
This Saturday will be the pay-per-view, so we'll have that all covered on Head Kicks and Haymakers. Saturday will be our preview show, and Sunday we'll have our post show. I'll do the Bodkins weekly wrap up on Wednesday. Should be 100% by then. So. That's pretty much it for this coming up for me.
Cool. As always, guys, as I said, I will be mock drafting after this. probably, what time is it? 9:30. Probably about 10:15, 10:30. I'll hop on and we'll do some auction drafts tonight. So, but I've been doing a mock draft we're going on 9 days, 10 days. I don't know, something in the matter. So having fun with it. I'm just trying to get prepared, but also help you guys get prepared for it. See who's there, see who's around. If you have a spot you want me to select in, whether it's auction or not tonight, let me know. We'll hop in that spot and we'll see who's all there and everything. So, but yeah, other than that, guys, we have our AFC South preview on Wednesday. Carlos will be on. We'll have some others on as well from for the different teams. Saturday morning will be Let's Talk Sports, and we'll be having our pre and post game Chiefs show on Saturday as well with Mike Settle for Settling the Kingdom. So that's all starting here, and I don't know if this week we're starting our pre-game NFL shows or not. I got to talk to Dan about it. But yes, we are having pre-game NFL shows. Let's Talk Sports, so be ready for that. It's going to be fun. But yeah, other than that, guys, Nick, you have anything else?
No, that's it, man. I appreciate it. I felt pretty good doing the show. Besides, had a couple of coughing fits, but
hey,
felt
that's
good
pretty
to
good.
be back on the microphone talking with you, Tanner.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to hop on in the end. So, Carlos, thanks for commenting. Ryan, thanks for commenting. As well as, I know I'm missing somebody. Tyrone for hopping on for sure. And then Mike for his one comment. So, appreciate you guys commenting in. It always helps. So, but yeah, catch me Wednesday, guys. And we'll, I guess we'll go from there. See you guys later.
See you guys.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Buffoons and Bodkins show. Make sure you hit that bell, subscribe, and follow for more content. Swing over to the Bodkins show, subscribe and follow for him. And then also swing over to Let's Talk Sports Network and go subscribe to him because it's phenomenal for what he does. And there's a lot more to come on that